Theruvan Saranai. The question today is how to attain Nibbhana being a lay person. I think it will be useful for most of us because we are all with a family at the moment. I don't think there are any monks in this group, so we are trying to follow the path, we are trying to walk the path, but we have a family, we have relatives, we have a lot to take care of. So people might still have this question as to how to walk the path being a lay person, because you have a lot of duties and responsibilities. So with the responsibilities and duties, you will have a question as to how can I do this? I don't want to have any responsibilities and duties. I just want to get rid of this everything. But then you will have a lot of questions. So I'm going to go through this today as the main discussion, and if there are any questions, we can talk about those questions later. So first of all, we need to understand whether you have to become a monk in order to walk the path. And for that, we need to take past examples. So if we take Vishaka became a Sotapanna at the age of 7, and she lived a life having I think 30 children. She had 30 children, if I'm not I have heard some people say 30, some people say 15, 16, but I'm not 100% sure about the number. But what you need to take is from here is she was very close to Lord Buddha in terms of Dhamma. She came to the Jetavanaramaya, she visited the Jetavanaramaya very often, and she was a Sotapanna. She made sure that she doesn't go to the four hells again. So that's a good example. And Anepinu Situ, I am sure you have heard about Anepinu Situ. He was very close as well. Agra Dayaka and Agra Dayaka. So they were the main two closest to Tathagata Vanshe in terms of lay people. Then we have heard about Kukkutamitta Vedda's wife. Again, this she became Sotapanna at the age of 7, and then she went to the jungle with this person, and then she spent her life with this person in the jungle, having 16 kids or something like that. So there is no restriction for anyone to get to the noble path being a lay person and walk the path. No one has completed the journey when by being in a family, but that doesn't mean that you can't walk the path. Right? You need to walk the path step by step, and then when you get closer to attaining Nibbhana, you will create the environment for you to go away from the family anyway. Right? You will create the environment yourself by walking the path. So another thing that you need to understand here is, when one becomes a Sotapanna, is there a way to identify from outside if that person is Sotapanna or not? I'm only talking about Sotapanna. Any others would be above Sotapanna. So Sotapanna is the first stage where this is when you become a real Buddhist. This is when you make sure you don't go to the four hells ever again. So this is a very important step one needs to take. So that's why I'm focusing on Sotapanna. So if one becomes Sotapanna, can anyone else identify that person? So if what changes takes place when one becomes Sotapanna? So if you take the same examples there has been a person called Sarakani who died. When he passed away, he was drinking. He was drinking alcohol, and he used to drink alcohol on a daily basis. He was addicted to alcohol, and then he passed away. And then his family members, from the same caste people, came and asked Tathagatayan Wahanse, what happened to this Sarakani? Where did he end up? Then Tathagatayan Wahanse said he was at the stage of Sotapanna. He attained a Sotapanna, so he was never going down to the hells. So that is a person who attained a Sotapanna, but he still drank alcohol. Because these currently most people think that if someone is drinking alcohol, if someone is doing certain things, he's definitely not Sotapanna. The 6 things that a Sotapanna would not do are the Panchanantariya Papa Karma and becoming a Niyata Mityaditti, as in a permanent a person with a wrong view, because he has come to the right view. Once one comes to the right view, he will never go back to the wrong view, because he understands the reality. And the other 5 are the Panchanantira Papa Karma. Panchanantira Papa Karma are the 5 the biggest 5 sins, which is killing the mother, killing the father, killing a Rahatan Wahanse, hurting Lord Buddha, and Sangha Bede. So those are the 5. So this person would never do, because if one does any of these 5, he will definitely go to the worst hell, Atamaha Narakaya. So that is the worst hell. So he will end up in the worst hell in his next life. So a Sotapanna cannot do this, will not ever do this, and therefore this Sotapanna will not do these sins, but that doesn't mean that he will not do any other sins. It doesn't say that a Sotapanna would not kill animals. It doesn't say that a Sotapanna would not kill humans. It doesn't say that a Sotapanna would not steal. It doesn't say that a Sotapanna would not have sexual misconduct. So the Dasa Akusale, the 10 immoral activities, can be done by a Sotapanna person. Doesn't mean that he will want to do it and he will do it on a regular basis, but there is a chance that that person can do it. So just because by looking at a Sotapanna person, another person cannot identify that whether he is a Sotapanna or not, because a Sotapanna will have an understanding. So the understanding only that person will know, and a Tathagatayan Wahanse would be able to tell. So that is what the Tripitaka says. Only a Tathagatayan Wahanse or the person himself will know whether he himself is Sotapanna or not. Others cannot recognize by looking at his actions or looking at him. So that is something that you need to understand. So you don't make judgments looking at a person because he's walking very quietly, he's not talking too much, and he's walking quietly and his actions looks really disciplined. That doesn't mean that he has become Sotapanna. And again, just because one person is doing wrong things or immoral activities, that doesn't mean that that person has not attained Sotapanna. So you wouldn't know. So it's best to keep away, and it's best to not say anything bad to anyone. Then we are safe anyway, or do anything wrong to anyone, because you don't want to do anything bad or say anything bad to a noble person. Then that effect will be really high and bad. So that is one thing you need to know. And this discipline is the next thing. So how do you become disciplined? Once when a king came to see Lord Buddha, there were about 500 monks in that temple, and all the monks have attained enlightenment. So they are all Arihatun Wahansela. And then this king asked Tathagatan Wahanse, how many monks do you have in this temple? And Tathagatan Wahanse said, we have 500 monks in this temple. But he couldn't hear any noise. It was so quiet and peaceful. So the king couldn't believe what is going on. 500 monks, 500 people in this place, and you can't hear any noise. No one is talking, there is no noise at all. So the reason for the discipline was the understanding. There is nothing to talk about. There is nothing to fulfill. People talk a lot trying to fulfill things. They talk about important things. When there is nothing important to talk about, they don't talk, because they have achieved what needs to be achieved. So there is no talking left to be done. That doesn't mean they don't talk at all. What I'm saying is they won't be noisy as normal people. So that is what you need to understand. So this discipline came from the understanding. So this is said in the Tripitaka, yang samadhanang tang vatang sangvarattena silang. So when one comes to the understanding, that person becomes disciplined automatically. You don't need to tell him to be disciplined. You don't need to put a lot of effort to make that person disciplined, because a Rahatan Wahanse, when a Rahatan Wahanse is walking, he would be looking down on the floor and where he's walking. He's just making sure he steps in the right place. That's the only thing he needs to look at. But when a normal person is walking, he wants to look at everything around him. He's looking for things. What is there? Oh, what is that? What is this? So he has a lot of needs, desires. So that is the difference between Rahatan Wahanse and a normal person. So when one recites precepts and then he wants to be disciplined in certain things, without the understanding, he will think, okay, I am not going to kill any living beings. I am not going to lie. I am not going to steal, so on and so forth. So if he makes some rules for himself or herself and abide by the rules and make sure those are not broken, that is a discipline that is being done by force. So that kind of discipline will be temporary. That is not a discipline that was attained by the understanding. But if one comes to the understanding, he will understand that doing such things doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to kill another living being. It doesn't make sense to steal from other people. It doesn't make sense to lie. Then no one has to check whether he's going to be abide by the rules. He will make sure they are not done, and he doesn't have to put a lot of effort towards it. It will happen automatically because of the understanding. So that is something that you need to understand, which a Sotapanna, when one becomes a Sotapanna, they say they will get a Pihiti Sila. Pihiti Sila is he will come to a certain level of discipline automatically. No one has to make rules for that person. It will happen automatically. So now there is something on in Tripitaka, why a Tathagatan Wahanse or a Lord Buddha comes to this world, which is a very important thing to know. It is said in Pali as Nahi sila vatang hotu uppajjanti tathagata attakkara thini pada sambuddhena pakasita. Nahi sila vatang hoti uppajjanti tathagata. Nahi sila. The Lord Buddha didn't come to this world to give precepts or put rules and make sure people abide by the rules. He didn't come to this world to do that. He came to this world to explain 3 words. So those 3 words are what we need to understand in order to walk this path. The 3 words are anicca, dukkha, anatta. So when one understands this properly deep inside, when one comprehends it, when one gets this installed, then he sees the reality. Then that person sees the reality, and that person becomes a sotapanna. Right? So this is something that you need to understand. So what kind of understanding does he get when he becomes sotapanna? So that is the next question. What type of understanding does he get from, what is anicca, dukkha, anatta? So that is the next question. This anicca, dukkha and anatta is explained in a phrase which has a link to each other. So how it says is yada niccang tan dukkhang yan dukkhang tadanatta. Yada niccang tan dukkhang yan dukkhang tadanatta. So what it means is, if something is anicca, that will result in dukkha. If something is anicca and dukkha, that will result in anatta. So that is what is explained in Tripitaka. Those are the words. But unfortunately, when they were translating this phrase in some of the books and in some of the sermons, they have translated into Sinhala, they have translated into a different word, which has confused a lot of people, and it has closed the real Dhamma. It has hidden the real Dhamma, because it's a different meaning that gives from the translation. So the different meaning is, for instead of anicca, dukkha, anatta, they have used anitya, dukkha, anatma. I am going to explain that as well, because I have seen in many books that they have explained anicca as impermanence and anatta as no self, and that is wrong. I will prove to you why it is wrong, and I will explain how it's wrong and why this anicca has a different meaning and anatta has a different meaning, because then that is how you can comprehend the Dhamma. Otherwise you will take the wrong route and you will go in a wrong route trying to find the reality, but that's not the reality, because you will be believing in something that is not true. So when you believe in something that's not true, you won't be able to realize the ultimate truth. So I will first take the example of impermanence, and I will explain why it's wrong. So according to the Tripitaka, it says if something is what these books are saying, right? This is not what the Tripitaka is saying. The Tripitaka is saying yada niccang tan dukkhang. If something is anicca, it will end up in dukkha. I will come to the real meaning later. I am saying it again because I don't want someone to come and play this now and then or listen to it now from this stage and then get the wrong meaning. So this is not the right one, but This has been explained in books. What has been explained in books is that impermanence gives a suffering. And I will take examples and show you why it doesn't work and why it's wrong. So when it says if something is impermanent, it will give a suffering, it doesn't work all the time. If there is something in Buddhism, or if there is something that Lord Buddha has mentioned, it cannot be wrong at times, that it cannot be right at times. It has to be right, and it has to be right 100% of the time. So that is one characteristic of the words that Lord Buddha has used. So this impermanence, why it doesn't work, is we should be able to take any example, and we should be able to see if when it's impermanent, it gives a suffering. So let's take examples. Say you have a house. The house is not permanent. That is what impermanent means, right? It's not permanent, so it depreciates. It depreciates and it breaks down, right, over time. So when your house depreciates over time, when it's not permanent, it gives you a suffering. So that example is correct. It is fine and it works, right? You have a car. The same thing with the car. When the car gets old, that means it's impermanent, so it gets old. So when it gets old, it gives you a suffering. You don't want it to get old, but it gets old, right? So it gives you a suffering, which is fine. It works there as well. This example, we should be able to use this anywhere, right? So now we take, you have a disease, you have a headache. If the headache is permanent, does that give you happiness or suffering? Or if that is impermanent, does that give you a suffering or a happiness? Now when there is something that you don't like, you want it to be impermanent. If it is permanent, then that's it. You won't be able to change it. That's it. You have to live with it. But it's good that it's impermanent, so it changes, and then you can become happy. Say for example, you have a cancer. You want the cancer to be impermanent. You don't want it to be permanent. So it doesn't apply to every single thing. That is the problem with impermanence. There is a characteristic of the goods around you. Yes, they are impermanent, but that has nothing to do with the suffering. We are talking about the suffering. We are looking a way to become happy. We are trying to become happy. We are looking for the ultimate happiness. So for anyone to become ultimate happy, they have to get rid of the sufferings. So this has to link with the sufferings. Whatever we are looking at should have a direct link to the sufferings. So that is why this is important to understand what anicca means. So this impermanent, whether it's permanent or impermanent, has nothing to do with the sufferings. We are looking at outside things, objects, or even inside, even your body. It changes. Yes, you don't want it to change, so you are unhappy. So this works with your body, because you get old, you don't want, and because it's impermanent, you are suffering. With the body it works, but with the body itself, you have a wound. Imagine you have a wound in your body. You don't want it, you want it to change. And if someone is saying if impermanent gives you sufferings, effectively that means permanence should give you happiness. But if everything was permanent, it would never give you happiness. So that is why it's wrong and it doesn't work. And the other word that I need to mention here is anatta. Instead of anatta, they have used anatma in Sinhala, which has been translated to English as there is no self. So this is another word which you need to understand. Whether there is a self or no self should not matter, and whether there is self or no self was an argument that was there before Tathagatan Wahanse was there. Tathagatan Wahanse's argument was nothing to do with whether there is self or no self. His argument was Paticca Sampadaya or Hetu Palavadaya was his argument. That was his theory. That was what he brought up. That was what he showed to the world. Not whether there is a self or no self. These are all Hetum Paticca Sambhotang Hetu Bhanga Nirujjati. They is to do with cause and effect theory. That was the theory he explained. Not whether there is a self or no self. Right? So those are the two words that you need to make sure you understand, that they don't belong to this concept, because otherwise you will get confused. And now let's look at what anicca really means, and then we will apply this to everything and see if it works. And if anyone thinks that there is a single example that doesn't work with this theory, then we can talk about it, right? So that is what we are going to do. So anicca, icca means kamatta, or the like, or the desire. That is what icca means. So anicca means it's not according to your like. Not according to your like. This is the most basic meaning of anicca. There are many deeper meanings into anicca, but once you understand the most basic one first, then you can go into more details about that. Until you get the most basic meaning, you won't be able to go deeper into the meaning, right? So anicca means it's not according to your like. What is not according to your like? So what it means is the world is not according to your like. When I say the world is not according to your like, what that means is it doesn't fulfill your desires. It doesn't fulfill the six senses in a little bit deeper meaning. So what you are trying to do here is, from the six senses, using the six senses, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and the mind, you are trying to get, this is the inner world. This is what you call as me. From the outside world, what you call as mind, which is vision, sound, smell, taste, touch and thoughts. So you are trying to take, eye is looking for visions, the ear is listening to the sounds, trying to fulfill, the nose is smelling, the tongue does the tasting, body does the touch, the mind does the thinking, trying to fulfill the six senses, but it will never fulfill, right? So that is what happens. So now let's take this example and see if this is related to the suffering. So if something is not according to your like, will that always give a suffering? Say you have a son. When that son is not according to how you want him to be, will that give you a suffering or will that give you happiness? Imagine you have a car. That car is not according to how you want it to be. Will that give you a suffering or will that give you happiness? You have a house. You have a headache. You want the headache to go away, but it doesn't go away. So when something is not according to your like, then it will give you a suffering. You have a cancer. You don't want a cancer, but you have a cancer. But it's not according to your like, so it will give you a suffering. You have a wife, you have a mother, you have a father. Take any example. You have a body. When the body is not according to your like, if you're too fat, you don't want to be too fat, then you suffer. It could be the other way around. You might be too thin. You want to become a little bit strong and a little bit fat, shall I say, than what you are now. But because you are thin, you are suffering because you don't like that to be that way, but it is that way. So this is what you need to understand. The world, it could be the inner world, the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and the mind, or the outer world, which is the vision, sound, smell, taste, touch and thoughts. They are not according to how you want it to happen. It might temporarily seem like that they are according to our like sometimes. I want to listen to a song, I switch on the radio and I'm listening to the song. So that is not what I'm talking about here. This is when you want to listen to a song, you, without even putting any effort, you should be able to listen to that song, if the world is according to how you want it to happen. Right? I want to have a car. When you think you want to have a car should appear if that is according to your like. But it doesn't. You have to put a lot of effort, spend a lot of money, work long hours, save a lot of money to buy a car. So that is not that being according to your like. That's just you're spending a lot of you're wasting a lot of time on that, trying to get that what you want. So that is because you are providing the reasons for it to happen. It's like an exam. So you can't say, oh yeah, I wanted to pass the exam and I passed. So if you were to if that was to happen the way you want it to happen, you just need to go to the exam and then come back. Or you don't even have to go to the exam, you just pass. You should really pass if that's according to your like. But it doesn't. You have to study hard and make sure you provide all the reasons, and you have to write the answers correctly in order to pass. So you need to provide the reasons. You're just providing the reasons here. Yeah, it's not happening to your like. You're just making it to happen. You're just providing the reasons for it to happen. So this is what you need to understand. Right? So the main thing that you need to understand here is it's anicca. Therefore, it gives us suffering, because it's not according to your like, or if it does never fulfill your senses. You always want to fulfill it. You're trying to fulfill. From morning till night, what you're trying to do is you're trying to fulfill the eye, ear, nose, tongue, body and the mind. But it doesn't. You've never fulfilled it. You're still looking to fulfill it. So when one understands this, is when that person understands properly. When one understands this properly, that person comes to the understanding of the reality of the world, which is anicca. If something is anicca, it will give you a suffering, because it's not according to how you want it to happen. So if something is anicca and dukkha, dukkha is the suffering, right? So if something is anicca and dukkha, what is the point in going behind this? Then that person comes to this understanding. I have been running around morning till night 365 days from the birth, and in the long journey of samsara I have been running around trying to fulfill. I have never fulfilled it, and it will never happen. You come to the understanding, now you know. You come to know that this is it. It's no point running around. That's it. This is the characteristic of the world. Everything you touch, everything you see, everything you listen to, this is how they are. So then once something happens not according to your like, it will be normal to you. You wouldn't suffer, you wouldn't cry. That is how it is. The world is like that. That person is blaming me for nothing. Then you wouldn't be crying, you wouldn't be hating that person, you wouldn't be going to fight with that person. You'll be like, that's how it is. That's how it's meant to be. I don't want him to blame me, but that's how the world is. I didn't do anything wrong. A person who didn't understand this, who doesn't understand this, will be like, oh my God, what is going on in this world? Why is he blaming me? What did I do to him? I haven't done anything wrong. Why is it only happening to me? So that is what the normal people would be thinking. They will be crying, oh my God, I haven't done anything wrong. So they don't understand that this is how the world is. When one understands this is how the world is, then they wouldn't suffer. It's like a sand castle. You know it's going to go washed away. So you're not going to cry when it goes washed away, because you know about it. It's like the balloon. It pops. You're not going to cry over a balloon. You're not going to cry over a sand castle. It is the same thing. This world is similar. The inner world and the outer world, both are similar. So that is what you need to understand. And another thing on top, I'm going in deeper as well, because I know most of you here have listened to a lot of Dhamma and you understand a lot of Dhamma. So if I was to just cover the basics only, it will be unfair on some of you guys. So I'm going to go into deeper as well as touch in the basics, so anyone in any level would understand. Now we'll go into a little bit deeper about the inner world and the outer world, or what we call is a world. There are 18. We can split it to 18 with the 12 that we talked about: eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, and the mind. That is the inner world. And then you have the vision, sound, smell, taste, touch, and thoughts. On top of that, you have the eye consciousness, ear consciousness, nose consciousness, tongue consciousness, body consciousness, and the mind consciousness. So those are the 18 places. And we are looking for asada, we are looking for gratification or pleasure. And what we need to understand is whether we can find the gratification in any of these places. The gratification is it is not in any of these 18 places. It's created in the mind as an abhisankara. It's not a vipaka, it's an abhisankara. So you create the gratification in your mind, the pleasure in your mind, and you're looking for the pleasure from outside. So that is the other thing that you need to understand. So if you want to you create a like in your mind for a flower, for example a red rose, say for example. Now you see a red rose and you become happy because you created a like in your mind. And you can create an unlike in your mind for a red rose. I don't like red roses. Then if you see a red rose, you're not going to be happy because you haven't created. You'll be actually sad. I don't want to see a red rose. And then you see a red rose. So it's something that you create in your mind. That is something that you need to understand on top of this. So when this person understands about this world, how it is, this is how it is, that person gets to the understanding of the world, the reality. So what does that what does it do to that person? That person becomes a sotapanna, or that person gets rid of the sakkaya ditthi. So of the 10 fetters, he gets rid of the sakkaya ditthi, vicikiccha, silabbata, paramasa. So sakkaya ditthi is this view, which is sakkaya dittiya. Sakkaya. What is sakkaya? Kaya sat. So he has a view. His view is kaya sat. Sat means valuable, good, and kaya are is the inner world and the outer world, which is chakku kaya, chakku sota, ghana, jivha, kaya, and manokaya. That is the inner world, and then rupakaya, shabdakaya, gandhakaya, rasakaya, pottabhakaya, dhammakaya. So those are the 12. So when one understands that these kaya is not valuable, there is nothing to take from this world, there is nothing to accept from this world or have hopes about this world, then that person gets rid of the satkaya drushtiya. Then he comes to the samma ditti. So when one comes to the samma ditti is when one can walk the path, because samma ditti is the start of the Aryashtangika Marga, or the Eightfold Path. That is the path, and that is the start of the path. Without the start, you would know where to go. Once you get to the start, you can see the path. Now you go. Now you know how to walk the path, because now you understand about the world. You understand about the reality. That doesn't mean you have covered everything, but now you know which way to go. Now you know going towards the world and going away from the world. Now you know that what keeps you in the world and what will take you away from the world. And then you know that this world is what gave you all the suffering. It's, when I say this, don't get me wrong, it's not the world that gave you suffering. The trishna or the attachment in you created the suffering for yourself. So you are suffering to the level of attachment. So where there is one person attached to 3 things will suffer 3 times more than one person attached to 1 thing, because he has 3 things to worry about. But the person with 1 is only worrying about that. So he is only suffering on that. So that is about the suffering and the world and how you get rid of the suffering. Now let me think if I have missed anything. Permanence, impermanence. Avidya. Yeah. And another thing is a person without the understanding will give a huge value, and that is what avidya is. Avidya is giving a value to something that is not value, without a value, something that is useless, something that is that doesn't have a value, you give a value. So when something is valuable is when you attach. Now we are trying to detach. How we detach is what I'm trying to explain. So in order for you to detach from something, you need to understand the reality. And if the reality is that there is no value in there, then you won't attach. For example, I have used this example a lot of times. Say there is a box. In that box you believe that there is 100,000 pounds. So until you believe that there is 100,000 pounds, it is valuable, because you believe that 100,000 pounds is a valuable asset. You think that this is very valuable because there is 100,000 in the box. But one day you realize there is nothing in that box. Until that day you will be protecting it. You will be trying to protect that from anything, somehow. But when you understand that there is nothing in that box, and the box is, there is no value in that box at all, then you're not trying to protect that ever again. And you're not going to be attached to it. And you won't try to protect it. You won't do anything to protect it. And no one has to tell you, do not attach to that anymore. Until that, even if people say to you, don't get attached to that box, don't get attached to that box, you will still attach. Because you believe that there is a value to it. But once you understand deeper inside, no, there is nothing to attach. I am only suffering by being attached to it, right? Then you will just let it go, because you understand that there is nothing in there. So that is the most important thing. So it's the same with the world. Until you believe that there is the world is really important, then you will attach to the world. So when you understand that there is nothing important as such in this world to attach to, and when you attach, it is only a suffering that you get, then you will try to detach slowly. And then that is when you try to understand. That is when you start to understand that by letting go is when you achieve the inner peace. Because there is no inner peace by having a lot of attachments. When you let go one by one, oh my God, what did you let go? You let go the suffering to do with that. That is what you let go. When you attach, what you attach to? You attach to the suffering to do with that. When you are attached to a son, every suffering to do with a son is with you. A person who doesn't have a son doesn't have the sufferings to do with a son. He is peaceful from a son. A person who has a daughter has everything, all the sufferings to do with a daughter. But a person who doesn't have a daughter has nothing to worry about a daughter, because he doesn't have that suffering. A person who has a car has sufferings to do with a car. A person who has a house has sufferings to do with a house. So what you attach to, I'm not saying do not consume these. It's not about consuming any of these. Having a house is fine, but when you're attached to the house, you're just attaching to the sufferings. Whether you're renting or whether you're buying, whether you have your own house, doesn't matter. You're going to only sleep on one bed. You can't sleep on 5 beds at one time. You can only drive one car. So whether you have 5 or 10 cars, doesn't matter. You can only drive one car at a time. So this is what you need to understand. You can have a lot of things. Doesn't mean you have to attach. This is something that you need to understand. It's about the attachment. It's not about what you have. There could be a person who's not attached to any of these, but he has a lot of things. Tathagatan Vahanse stayed at Jetavanarame. That was a palace, but he wasn't attached to any of that. So it didn't matter to Tathagatan Vahanse whether the Jetavanarame was there the next day or not. But if we were to live in a palace or in a big house or anywhere, we would be worrying about, if we go on a holiday, we want to come back and see if the house is there, still there. If someone has broken into the house. If you left the car, can you park anywhere you want and then just go anywhere without locking the car? You can't do that because you're attached to it. So you're suffering. You're scared. Because you're attached to it, you believe that there is a value with this. So this is what you need to understand. The more you understand, then the more you let things go. But don't let things go without the understanding. Try not to do that. It's not about letting things go first and understanding. You let it go with the understanding. Slowly you let it go. Okay, I was attached to that this much, but I'm not attached that much anymore. So that is the understanding you got. So the more and more you contemplate, you do meditation, and you think about this, then you understand deeper into it, and you can let go more and more. So this is how you walk the path, right? So when one understands this, another thing that you need to understand is, now when you believe that these are very important things and there is a value, is when you suffer so much. But when you let them go slowly, you don't suffer as much, right? Then you come to the understanding of this karmasthana. I will actually recite a karmasthana with this, so that when you do the karmasthana, you can focus on the discourse and the details of the discourse, so that you can go into vidarshana and contemplate deeper, right? So the karmasthana is bhavaya uduradamu tuntara bodhiyata vandimi mama ekasitin e maha guna kandata ragayen mat vela මොනවමා ලබන්නද ද්වේෂයෙන් ගැටි ගැටි මොනවමා දිනන්නද මෝහයෙන් අන්ධ වී මොනවමා ලබන්නද ලෝකයෙන් මිදි මිදි නිවන් සුව ලබන්නෙමි රාගයෙන් මිදි මිදි නිවන් සුව ලබන්නෙමි ද්වේෂයෙන් මිදි මිදි නිවන් සුව ලබන්නෙමි මෝහයෙන් මිදි මිදි නිවන් සුව ලබන්නෙමි ලෝකයෙන් මිදි මිදි නිවන් සුව ලබන්නෙමි. So what this means is bhave uduradamu tuntara bodhiyata. The tuntara bodhi is the three Lord Buddha, Pacceka Buddha and the Arahata Buddha who have become enlightened. Vandimi mama, I am giving the utmost respect. When one comes to this understanding is when you give the utmost respect. Until then you won't respect, you won't have a proper respect. You will just have a normal respect, how you give it to another person. But when you understand the Dhamma, oh my God, that's when you understand the importance of these people. Right? Now, Ragen Matvela, I was drunk, or I was drunk with Raga. I didn't know. I was trying to get everything I can. I was running around trying to acquire things. Then Dvesha in Geti Geti, I was fighting with hatred. I was trying to achieve everything. I was trying to win everything with hatred. And Moha in Andavi, I didn't see. I was with the delusions. I was covered with the darkness. I was running around. Monavama Laban, what am I going to achieve? When you understand that there is nothing important, there is nothing valuable to achieve, that's when you get to this karmasthana. What am I trying to achieve? What am I trying to do by fighting? What am I trying to do by going around with raga or dvesha or moha? So the utmost happiness is here when I am without raga, without dvesha and without moha. That is what that means. Raga in midi midi. I'm going to get rid of the raga slowly. I'm going to get rid of the dvesha midi midi. Nivan suva labannimi. The utmost happiness, the tranquility of Nibbhana, I'm achieving slowly. And then loka in midi midi. Now you understood about the loka. Now you are not attached to the loka anymore. When you are doing the karmasthana, that is what you need to focus on. So when you detach from the loka is when you go to the dhyana. Until you're attached to the loka, you're attached here. You can't go. You can't go to the dhyana. When you detach from the loka, you become aloka. That's when the light comes. That's when you get to the dhyana. Nivan suva labannimi. So that is how you walk the path. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to become a monk to do this. You can do at wherever you are. And when you walk the path slowly and get to the understanding slowly and slowly, you let things go slowly. And then you let the most important, what you think is most important, you let go last. So if your family is what you think is most important, you let that one go last. That's when you leave the place. But for that you need to go to a certain level. You need to at least become anagami. You can become anagami from your own home, and that's when you get rid of the kamaraga and patiga. There is no kamaraga or patiga when you become anagami. That's when you feel like there's no point in living with a family anymore. So you can do everything. Being in a house, there's no restrictions at all. You just need to focus. You need to concentrate. You need to be mindful of what you're doing, what you're thinking, what you're talking about, the speech and the actions, and then you will walk the path comfortably. It's not easy as how it sounds. You have to put an effort, but as long as you're mindful and you're focusing and you see anicca, dukkha, anatta on a daily basis, it makes it very easy than a normal person. You don't have to put a lot of stretch onto it if you're focusing on these all the time. I hope you gathered something out of it. I hope you understood what anicca, dukkha, anatta is. Anartha is no value. So that is what you understand. When there is anicca and dukkha, it's no point giving a value to it and attaching it to it. So that is what that means. I hope you guys understood this.